My sister-in-law and I have an agreement. She watches my kids 3 days a week, and I watch hers 3 days a week. This agreement has stood since March 2020 without issues. Any changes have been discussed weeks in advance. A couple weeks ago, we had an argument. The next day, I brought my kids to her house, dropped them off, and left. I didn't speak to my sister-in-law, because when one of us is in a rush, like I was, it's standard for us to just let the kids out, stay in the car, and drive off when you see the door open. I drove to work, about 40 minutes away. When I got there, I had about 20 missed calls, and even more texts, all from my sister-in-law, all saying she didn't want to watch the kids given our argument. Her first text arrived a little before I got to her place, but I didn't see it until I got to work because my phone is always on silent when I drive. I rang her, said I'll arrange to work from home, then come get the kids. She said I have 45 minutes to get back to her place or she would call the police. I told my supervisor the situation, and she said I could leave after I did a few things. This delayed me 20 minutes. When I got back to my sister-in-law's, just over an hour later, she said she'd already called the police when the 45 minutes ran out. I then had to stick around long enough to tell the officer that I didn't abandon my children, there was just a communication issue. Sister-in-law and I had another shouting match later over this. I arranged other childcare for my kids and I've been mostly ignoring her since. However, she reached out and apologized, and has asked if I'd be willing to go back to the old childcare arrangement. I work with kids. If I got child abandonment on my record, I would never work in my field again, which she knew. And her calling the police was a massive overreaction, so if she needs a babysitter she can go whistle for all I care. She said that if I checked my phone, talked to her that morning, or came back when I was supposed to, she would not have needed to call the police, and I did this to myself. As she gave me a warning with that first text and I could have checked my phone or spoken to her directly when I got to her place. All of which she says she would have done if she were in my position, given that we'd argued the night before. I've told her that if she thinks I'm babysitting for her, she's delusional, and she's on her own. Because of my refusal, it's looking like she may have to quit her job because my brother and her would pay more for a babysitter than they would earn from her working. My mother and brother have both called me an arsehole because there were no consequences to her calling the police, and that while she overreacted, she's apologized, so if I really forgive her, I'll let us move on. This income loss would also mean that she, my brother, and my niece and nephew might need to move somewhere cheaper. That my brother might have to take on extra hours at work. And in an extreme scenario they may even be completely unable to live independently, meaning they'd have to move in with her parents, who live several hours away. I and my husband tried for 5 years to get pregnant. Testing eventually revealed I have eggs of steel, and without medical help I'll never get pregnant. So that's what we did. Gave our samples, 1 petri dish, and 9 months later I have 2 beautiful fraternal twin boys. Jack and Adam. Thing is, Jake has a condition. Without going into detail, requires a shot once a week. Once he is older he can take pills. I went back to work and mother-in-law offered to watch the babes. She's wonderful, I trust her 100%. They were 9 months. Now 16 months, during this time she would give his injection as we had a schedule. 10 a.m. before snack and nap. Worked very well until a month ago when she gave the shot to the wrong kid. Now they may be fraternal but they look identical. I'll be honest, my husband and I even mix them up sometimes. Everyone does. She immediately noticed her mistake, called 911, and they were transferred to hospital. By the time I got there Adam had been given the reversal agent and they were both happily sipping on juice, loving the attention. We went home the same night told to push fluids. He was never in danger. It's a very slow-acting medication that, at worst, would have given him diarrhea in a few days. Mother-in-law was beside herself. I tried to ease her worry but she refused to babysit, so to daycare they went. This daycare has a nurse cause some of the kids have medications, so she knew what to do, but the worry of mixing up the kids was a valid concern, and they would not keep name tags on doctor recommended a medical tattoo. Explained they tattoo a freckle, no bigger than the end of a pencil eraser, on an area of skin that's easily seen while the child is under mild sedation, similar to dental offices. Because of the area, it usually fades in 2 to 3 years, but by then they should have developed more personal features, and may not need it redone. So after discussion with my husband, we did it. He has a 2 mm brown freckle on his earlobe. From entering the office to leaving it took 30 minutes. Never felt a thing. Mother-in-law lost her shit the second I mentioned a medical tattoo. I tried to explain, but she just freaked out, so I put both kids on the floor and told her to pick up Jack and find the tattoo. She picked up Adam, so I handed her Jack, and after 20 minutes still couldn't find it. Stripped him to his skivvies. I finally pointed it out and she went, "That's just a freckle, I just said." My point exactly. Adam doesn't have a freckle there. So that's how daycare can tell them apart. She's still pissed and ranting. Once I explain to others and they fail to find it, they understand, but they still think I went too far in tattooing my child and altering their body. I believe I took the necessary precautions recommended by the doctor, and the tattoo will fade with sun exposure, and as he grows, by the time he's 5 it probably won't even be visible, or it'll just look like a faded freckle. Now both of my kids, 16-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter, and my ex are extremely mad at me because I won't give up my appointed time with them. My son won't even talk to me, and my daughter is crying all the time. Me and my ex divorced shortly after my daughter was born. I blame him for it and he blames me. I won't go into detail here. We ended up with a 50/50 custody agreement, switching every other week. While this was 8 years ago, we're still not on good terms. We rarely ever talk to each other outside of the kids, and I'm perfectly fine with that. One thing we have agreed on since the beginning though is that we don't plan things on days that aren't ours. And unless it's extremely important, we don't switch days or weeks. In the 8 years since we've been divorced, I have never asked him to have the kids on a day that isn't mine, and I've never given him one of my days even if he begged. Well, last week my ex contacted me and told me the good news. His parents are hosting a week-long family reunion in the summer at Disneyland, and he wants to take the kids. Well, the problem is that it's on one of my weeks. He asked me to let the kids stay with him that week or to switch a week with me, and I shot him down. It's my week with them and I get to spend it with them. I told him if it's so important to him to reschedule, but he claims his parents can't do that, and this is the only week that the whole family can go, and he told me that I need to think of them. I told him tough luck and hung up on him. Well, this last Sunday when my ex dropped the kids off with me, my son refused to talk to me at all, and my daughter wouldn't even look at me. When I asked my ex what was wrong, he refused to talk to me, only saying ask them in a snarky tone before leaving. When I asked my daughter what was wrong, she burst into tears and said that I was not letting daddy take them to Disneyland. Asking my son, who still refuses to talk to me. It turns out that my ex told them I was not letting them go to Disneyland with him. He's trying to paint me as the bad guy. I sat both of them down last night to talk to them and explain it's my week with them, but they refused to listen to me. My daughter just cried, and my son told me I'm only doing this to get back at my ex. I think it's unfair for him to do this when his parents scheduled it during my time with them. I demanded an apology from my ex and him to set things straight, but he refuses, and his last text to me being, "Can't tell them the truth 'cause they already know it." I'm so pissed right now. I am the oldest daughter of 4 children. I'm currently 25, second oldest is 23, third is 20, and youngest is 18. When I was 8 years old, my mom had an affair with a family friend. I, being the oldest, has remembered most of it, and my younger siblings only remember growing up with our parents co-parenting. This has put a strain on my mother's and I's relationship. She cheated on my father, who was battling cancer. She didn't even try to keep it a secret from the kids. I remember during family / friend gatherings when everyone would be inside and I'd see my mom and the family friend kissing or doing things in the pool. As a kid I didn't understand, but as I got older I realized what she was doing in front of us, and I feel sick. People ended up catching on to their affair years later, and my mom left my dad and started a new relationship with this family friend. They split up shortly after that because he cheated on my mother. I've confronted her about this after my dad passed and we all went to see a family therapist. This was roughly 3 years ago. My mom has since remarried to an incredible man, but recently she was out and bumped into this man from her past. They exchanged emails and she confided in me that they have been sending emails back and forth and are planning to meet up to chat and catch up. I read the messages and it's very apparent that the guy still has feelings. While my mom is trying to make it seem like she's just catching up with an old co-worker. But I know my mother, and I know she is still slightly infatuated with this man, and flattered that he still wants her. I mean, it's been years, why else would you want to catch up? My new stepdad knows about her past, and while he doesn't agree with it, it's been years, he wasn't in her life yet. She asked me what I thought about her meeting up with him, and said something along the lines of needing closure. She asked for my honest opinion about the matter and I told her, to be honest mom, you dealing with this guy in the past ruined yours and daddy's marriage and you guys had 4 kids. Why you think it wouldn't ruin this one, but why don't you stop being and stop thinking with your and delete this guy's damn email? She cried, said she couldn't believe I just called her and left my house. We haven't spoken for a few days. Today, I got a call from my siblings saying I hurt my mom's feelings and whatever happened between her and daddy's marriage was between them. I disagree. I had to witness my mom cheating on my father. I watched him die in bed while she was off to God knows where with this man. She asked for my opinion and my opinion is that she's selfish and who left my dad to die on his own and she wants to rekindle with this man and possibly cheat on my new stepdad.